Hi, this is Robert Battle, Artistic Director of the Alvin, Ailey American Dance Theater, and we're thrilled to be performing live on stage again.
Coming to the Arts Center February 25th through 26th. Tickets.
Hey, everyone, and thank you for joining us again. I'm Stephanie Van Vark. I'm Just Talking Business, and I'm a small business owner. I just wanted to say very quickly thank you to our new partner and sponsor, the Asian Arts Center. We want to make sure you check out the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater, who will be coming to town February 25th and 26th. I have been before. It is an amazing production. So if you haven't been or you just want to see it again, I plan to be there. Come join me there. I'll let you know which night, but at any rate, thank you again, and I hope you check it out. Now, today, we want to talk to a young woman who is an attorney, but her specialty is in the credit realm. I'll let her tell you more about that because I actually learned some stuff before the show. So again, this is Stephanie Van Vark. We're Just Talking Business. I'm a small business owner about to talk to an attorney about credit. Tune in, keep watching. Hey, Miss Tracey Cabanis.
Hi, Stephanie. Hi.
How are you today?
So glad to be here. I cannot hear you well.
Really? Why? What happened? Uh-oh. Do you hear me at all? Do you hear me now?
So I'm going to turn off my speakerphone and see if that
Okay.
helps.
Does that help?
I cannot hear you.
Oh,
It is the
that's
strangest
good.
thing.
We are having some technical difficulties. Do you want to hop out and come back in?
Yes, let's do
Okay.
that. I can
Give
do
that a
your
try.
lips.
Yes.
Okay.
I will.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I'll keep everyone entertained while you come. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back online in a second. Again, as I mentioned, Tracey is here. She owns a company called Top Credit USA, and she will talk to us a little bit about that industry and how interesting actually that industry is, and where she lies, where her specialty or what she is able to offer to everyone. Again, let's talk a little bit again about the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater. They will be here at the Asian Arts Center February 25th and 26th. We encourage you to get tickets at theartscenter.org. And it's going to be an amazing show. It's definitely going to be worth it. Here she is. Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you perfectly. I'll tell you what's interesting is the sound went haywire during the awesome Adrian Arts Center and Alvin Ailey presentation, which was so awesome. I'm just so proud of you for having them as a sponsor for you. I absolutely love it. And then it just went
as lovely as it was. It went woo.
Absolutely. So I apologize. Listen, your show is always so awesome, and leave it to me to make it quirky. But hey, what can I say?
Look, we've definitely had some. We've had some moments. Trust me, we've had some moments. And I do want to say very quickly, thank you very much, Tracey. You're always tuned in. Always tuned in.
I love it.
I hope you're learning stuff.
Yes.
And you've been very, very supportive throughout the show. And I started doing this show, if I can be very selfish, because I wanted to learn stuff myself.
Right.
Because, we talked a little bit earlier about sort of the purpose of the show was about learning how to pivot to scale.
Right.
And I think the pandemic forced us to do, you had no choice. You either had to pivot to scale or pivot to fail.
That's right.
And not a lot of people wanted to do the latter. So let's delve in. Let me start with who you are and what you do. And then let's talk about, how you were able to do that as well.
Okay. Well, I'm Tracey Cabanis, and I am an attorney in South Florida, and I primarily practice in wills and trusts, personal injury, and business startup. But I developed a passion and a niche for advocating for folks to understand the importance of credit.
Mhm.
And as we know, there are laws that, support protecting the consumers as far as, credit reporting, accurate credit reporting, and all of that. So that is within the law. But in real life, they say that, cash is king, but we know that credit is everything. Credit is
Absolutely.
everything. And most
Absolutely.
people do not really understand that credit is not just about going out and buying, fancy things, a flashy car and all that. We actually need that to survive.
Mhm.
And particularly in business, I say, lawyers, we go to law school because we want to advocate and,
Mhm.
and represent people. And we are not business people at heart, unless, someone has actually, gotten a business degree before going to law school. That's not automatically what we do. So I had to learn that it was more than practicing law, that you
Right.
had to, you had to have, an office and staff and
Mhm.
computers and paper and, going to court and just everything. It requires you having, the business mindset.
Mhm.
And so the first time I actually had my own business was actually pivoting. This is well before the pandemic. I was doing real estate closings, thriving business, and that bubble burst.
We were talking about that right before, and I mean, I'm intrigued by that. So let's delve right in that for
Okay.
sure. That was 2008. That was when real estate did that thing that we now know is a serious crash.
That's right.
But
That's
it caused a serious crash. And you were by trade a lawyer working in that specialty field.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about one, how long you'd been in that trade. And I think we talked about you didn't see it coming. So what was your immediate pivot? How do you what kind of got you going to decide to let's make a switch and let's challenge what I think was my revenue base for
Absolutely. Well, it was definitely like you said, thrive or die. So when the real estate bubble burst, so did all of the real estate transactions, which is what funded my business. Doing the closings, it was a volume base. So I had a book of business that just immediately went away. So I was fortunate enough to get, sell my home and actually, come out with a little bit of money, which most people did not. They,
Right.
their house, the value just tanked. I was able to sell my house, move my kids and I into an apartment. And then I had to say, what's next? And I actually ended up going to work for the very banks, the legal departments, for the very banks that caused the bubble to burst, that caused, our businesses and our lives to flip upside down. And it was in, those jobs, and they were very low paying and they were not glamorous. Just to let you know, what I learned, that these institutions do not have us in mind. They
Right.
say the customer's always right, but it's to the extent that we fund their business. And
Absolutely.
I started to see how, people were getting into homes and cars and things like that, basically
that they
giving it
couldn't
away.
afford.
Could
That
not
they
afford
couldn't
it.
afford.
Could not afford it, and did not have the education to know that, your credit is actually your reputation. It's your rep.
And on paper, I've always said that I think your real wealth is less about what you have in your pocket and more about what you are on paper.
That's right.
That's where your real wealth lies.
That's right.
Now, let me ask you sort of a personal question. When I say personal, I don't mean like I'm getting in your real business. I'm really more intrigued about the emotional aspect of, how did you feel and how did you emotionally overcome, what at that time I'm sure felt like a failure?
Yes.
What, was it that life was sort of in a blur and you had to get things going, you have time to stop and think about it? Or were you like, what did I do?
Well, the good thing that I realized that I didn't do anything.
Okay.
Because I was suffering with the rest of the company. That CEOs of banks and big corporations were jumping off buildings because honestly, because everything crashed for them and they could not see beyond these millions and billions that they were making. Me, I was a small business person, always just wanting to help people, a big advocate. And so I knew, okay, well, it's not just me.
Okay.
So, but emotionally it was hard because you have to shift everything, how you're living, what, your spending, your outlook, your discipline. But, I knew that when you hit rock bottom, you have to come back up and you have to figure out how brick by brick to rebuild it. So when I went to go work for these banks doing these legal cases, I learned that they were taking advantage of people. And I felt like I fell in that bucket, and I was going to learn all I could while working for them so that I could eventually, of course, support my family first and foremost, but then learn how to really advocate for people to get their ducks in a row with their credit, their finances, and all that to survive.
So when you decided to go work for the bank, did you make a conscious decision to say, I'm going to stay here until, I think you have adult children now, until I, make sure my children are settled? Or was there a yearning to say, okay, I think I'm ready now to hop back out there into the
there was a yearning to hop back out there for sure. But I had to take it slow because I the risk, we learn about, having to assess the risk on, what we want to do business wise and, what's a little bit more comfortable. But in hopping back out there, I'll tell you, surrounding yourself with the right people to do business with, that'll make or break how successful your business is. And eventually I felt comfortable enough to get back out there.
So what's the second time around? What was the plan? Did you say to yourself, did you have sort of a specific plan as to when you wanted to get started and what you wanted to achieve? Or did you sort of say, let's just take that leap of faith. I know I want to get into this particular area. How, talk us through the strategy, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So once again, I did not go back out there the way that I would advise a client to. From the hip, just saying, you know what, enough is enough with this. It's not rewarding. It's not paying. And, it's really not a long-term way for me to be satisfied. But so I didn't do it the right way. I still didn't have a business plan. But again, I joined an established firm, an attorney who already was, running business the way that I admired and wanted to learn from. And so I jumped back out, but with, a person who was already established, which was very helpful.
What you learned during that time, I talked to another company right here on this show. Did what you learned during that time help you and prepare you for the pandemic? Did you already sort of have some just in case wheels in motion when it hit?
It did.
Okay, good.
It did.
Good.
So even though I was caught off guard with the bubble bursting and caught off guard, previously, I wasn't prepared for a pandemic, but I definitely was a lot more cautious and a lot more purposeful in trying to prepare for whatever could come next in life.
Because, you and I sort of talked about this briefly earlier. The pandemic actually, I think, exposed the ecosystem that you and I both in. You were actually in the Broward area. I'm in the Dade area. We tout ourselves as being sort of this place and space for small businesses. Right. But, we had a lot of businesses that, kind of closed their doors 2 weeks in. Right. That essentially means we're only prepared for a hurricane. You know what I mean?
Barely. Right.
Barely for a hurricane. So we've got to ask ourselves, what aren't we doing right that we don't have businesses that can at least sustain themselves for a period of time during these times of emergency? As an attorney, working in this entrepreneurial space, but also being an entrepreneur yourself, what do you say are some of the things that we should be doing differently in the ecosystem, but also as small business owners saying, okay, for myself, I need to do
Yes.
these.
Well, definitely for myself, business wise, I'm fortunate that I was one who was able to just simply do the same business in a brick and mortar remotely.
Okay, exactly. Yeah.
Very fortunate with that. But we do always need to try to have a pivot plan. We talk about wealth and ways to build wealth, but certainly also having, multiple streams of business, sort of like octopus, legs extending from the core business. So, you have to start thinking, well, if this is no longer viable or valuable commodity, what other ways can I, extend from that? So, event planners, right, who started making cupcakes and making flyers for people's online businesses, they are still extensions of that main business that they have. So we do need to start looking at that as well. I do this, but what other little narrow niches can come from what I do? I think that's really important.
And what are your maybe some of your streams of revenue? Credit being your focus, but what other areas are you able to serve?
Well, actually, the legal realm is actually my main business.
Okay.
So, like I said, I do civil work, wills and trusts, personal injury work, but I also still always maintain the ability to contract with corporations to do, jump in and out and do projects that interest me, where one, I get paid to learn more from the big guys. So I still go and do contracts with financial institutions that they pay me, they keep me current on the law, they keep me current on what it is they are looking for to, loan money and fraud and different things. It keeps me abreast of what's going on with them. So then I can in turn tell clients, listen, this is what you do and don't do with PPP loans. This is how you disclose truthfully, your tax bracket and things like that. So I have the legal business. I still contract with the financial institutions. And then I also do speaking engagements and training and the like with regards to the credit, because again, I learned that we will be blindsided if we do not understand how important our personal credit is, personal, and how it extends to business.
So, okay, then let's delve into that. And I did learn something earlier today that I didn't realize. When I thought that your credit expertise lend itself to business, it's more personal.
That's
but
right.
You're right. I've had to learn the hard way that a lot of what you build as a small business owner starts with you.
That's right.
As a business owner. So, in my research, I've learned there was $11 trillion in debt and loans in 2022. That sounds like a crazy amount of money.
Right.
And I'm always talking to business owners who've gone out and gotten these loans and don't understand the ramifications of that. I guess kind of break it down for us, if you could, a little bit as to the importance of, making sure you're set and solid before you start using that to get money from a business standpoint.
Well, if you think about this, so when you go into business, people are coming to Stephanie's business. They are coming to get the product that you offer, or the service that you offer. It's based on your reputation as a person. Then over time, how you, the business owner, handle your customers, handle your clients, then the reputation for the business grows.
Right.
If you think of it like that. So the same thing with credit. If I go to, if I start a business today and I go to the bank and say, I have this great business idea, I pitch it, and I say I need, $50,000 to start this business, they'll go, okay, Tracey, well, let me see how you handle your personal business. Because how you handle your personal business, your personal credit and finances is going to dictate how you do in business. They
Right.
first want to see how you, the individual, right? They assess the
Can
risk
manage.
with you. They
Yes.
assess the risk with you. And then over time, so you have strength with credit as a personal guarantee.
Mhm.
And then they give the business money. And then, a year or two or more in, as your business is viable, then they will start to loan the business credit and
Right.
less requiring personal guarantees for the person. But it starts with the person.
So then if I go as a business, I go get a loan,
Mm-hmm.
I have to understand that right now as a small business without a lot of leverage,
Mm-hmm.
that it could affect my personal assets.
It will.
Okay.
It will definitely affect it. And that's the whole importance of understanding that it's what our personal habits are. What we show these banks about our, the risk in investing in us,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Then as the business grows, and it's bigger than that. It's these banks know the type of business, they have risk that they assess to every kind of business. And so the strength of the individual and their credit is key to whether or not they're going to get into a relationship with you. No matter how good your business is.
They're going to. And even as a small business owner, I mean, that essentially means that your job is linked to, unlike someone who works for a company that gets a check every 2 weeks.
That's right.
Business owners don't work like that. You get a check when everything else is paid.
That's right.
How how are banks looking at that? Are they, sort of saying, okay, we're going to treat them the same way, or we are clearly going to assess how we're going to get our money back?
That's the number one. That's all they want to know. They want to know how we're going to get it back, and they want to know how much money they can make off of us.
Right.
We make them money.
That's true.
And they don't want to lose money because of us.
Right.
We think they believe in us. They believe in what it is that we can bring to the table for them.
Right. So what are some of the questions we should be asking when we go to a bank? That even as a business owner, and I'm going to look for a loan or some resources through a bank, it still, again, affects me personally.
Yes,
what are some of the questions we should be asking back?
Absolutely. Well, is it a personal guarantee? If the business defaults on the credit, do I have to put a personal guarantee down, which means then they can come for my personal assets? Of course, things like prepayment penalties. Hey, you're loaning me $50,000 over 10 years, but if I do well, can I pay this off, in full without a penalty? The fees, how are you making money off of me? We never ask. We ask them, give us money and tell us how much it's going to cost us to pay back over the months. But we don't really ask, well, how much are you making off of doing business with me?
Right.
We really don't look at it like that. We look at, can we afford the payments?
Right.
But over time, we walk away with, having given the bank a pretty penny for our business.
Right. So this credit thing, I have to say, I've honestly learned a lot over the course of my years. Last week, we had a young man that was on that talked about wealth building, wealth management in particular. Our folks, we're now in the cusp of just learning what that looks like. He's an artist, a curator, and talked very seriously about NFTs, how art is becoming one of those areas we should look into when it comes to wealth building. I wanted to get your take on that when it comes to, is that too some of the things that one would look at? Is that helpful when a person and or business owner is looking to secure credit, having these types of wealth these portfolios with, you know, diverse products, or does that hurt?
No, definitely having a diverse, you know, investment base and asset base. I mean, that's way above my level, but I'll tell you this. No, it's the truth that, you know, diversification is major. Even when we talk about, you know, credit and how they assess whether or not we are worth the risk, they look at, you know, different things like payment history, you know, how high are our balances, you know, diversification. Do we just have credit cards? Do we also have loans and mortgages and other types of vehicles where we are paying those things on time, right? So that's from a debt perspective on how we are assessed with our credit. Well, certainly if we have assets, whether it's NFTs, which I think is the coolest thing, and I'm learning about that as well, right? If we have these different types of assets, absolutely, that makes us stronger candidates to, you know, obtain the type of funding, you know, that we need for our business goals. I mean, at some point, you know, I was saying earlier, the CEO of Coke no longer has to, you know, they don't check his personal credit. Coca-Cola on its own is, well, of course, it's a public corporation, but it's speaks for itself. But until your business speaks for itself on the books, right, for at least 2 years, how much money, you know, it's bringing in, and how long that type of business is actually going to be a viable business. Until then, they still look at our assets, what they can get if they don't get our money.
Okay. Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a friend one time who said she applied, or she was going to apply for a grant, but she got scared. A loan for $50,000, and a part of the application said, "We have asset. We can acquire your home if you don't pay this."
That's right.
That's right. Like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that, and I don't blame her. Not for $50,000, and the value of her home was far more than that. So I can't say I blame her. Now, you're an attorney by trade. We had, you know, we sort of had this conversation, and, you know, you sort of said, actually, you know, and I sort of agree with you. There are certain industries that I think we assume are really business driven.
Right.
Attorney, lawyers, I think we, in addition to doctors, but have a lot of the same challenges we do in terms of small business business ownership. What are the things that you've had to train yourself to do, or learn, or go to get support in, as well as friends in your industry that are small business owners? What are some things that you advise, especially in your industry, not to take for granted, but to go get help with?
Absolutely. Budgeting. It is just that simple. It's that simple. You know,
that's airbag. That's just not.
It is just, but honestly, it's very basic. In personal life, you know, if we don't budget, we are just juggling, you know, bills and money coming in and coming out. We have no idea what the outlook is, right? But certainly for a small business owner, I mean, you know, we go to law school for 3 years. We pass the bar, hopefully on the first time, and then after that, if we either have an offer from a firm or a corporation, or we start ourselves. Right. We know that we need clients. We know that we need a conference room for them to come sit in. That was pre-pandemic, right? And we at the time would figure, as long as I can bring in the clients and then pay the obligations, right? Then everything is perfect. But in reality, it's more than that. It's more than that. But I really believe that in law school, we should have required business courses. It should be required.
I agree. I think in general, because when I have a friend, we've talked about, you can be almost a small business owner, or an owner, or entrepreneur in almost any industry.
That's right.
But we never look at it that way. We just have to make assumptions.
I mean, just think about a doctor. They are going to save lives and make people feel better. You know, I don't even know if they have to take business.
No,
right?
no, they do not. No, they do not.
But you know, so we laugh about it, but it's really
Mhm.
true. I mean, it's just more than a notion. And a lot of us have these great ideas about how we're going to help people. We're going to help solve a problem for people. But still, at the end of the day, you know, our business has to thrive, because if not, Stephanie, imagine this: the distraction from fulfilling your purpose that is, you know, is your business, the
Mhm,
distraction
mhm.
that financial problems can bring to your ability to really serve that purpose.
You actually cannot do your work because you're spending most of your time just trying to put out fires.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you said you feel like your clients, or you are an example of the kind of client you would be looking for.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you market to that person? How do you, what's your sweet spot into both identifying that client and then securing that client?
Well, I'll tell you what. So if we talk about it, you know, not from the lawyer aspect, but from the credit aspect, it
Mhm,
is, you know, I have been able to earn trust
mhm,
from clients who need help in the credit space, because it is not a good feeling to go and say, I need help with my
mhm,
credit,
mhm. It is not.
because it's an internal struggle. And so when I can say, you know, to someone, hey, listen, I went through a divorce and it took me out, and I had to figure out how to fix, you know, fix my credit again as
Mhm.
a single individual. I can also, and people don't think that, you know,
Right,
they'll look at me or look at you or anyone else and think, oh, that person, there's no way that person could be going through what I'm going through.
right,
It's
exactly,
shameful, it's
exactly,
stressful, and I
exactly,
don't know where to start.
exactly.
So it is a great thing for me I'm honest. I tell people, hey, I've been there and it
Mhm,
wasn't easy. I also can tell people that when I bought my first house in Miami-Dade County, I was 31 years old.
mhm.
All I knew is I had to have a certain score, make a certain amount of money. I did. I got my mortgage. And after that, I paid my mortgage on time, but I had no idea how to build my credit to its maximum, to maybe where I could buy an investment property.
Exactly, exactly,
There was still no
exactly. How to
education,
build on that. Yes,
right?
exactly,
So
exactly,
a lot of
exactly.
us learn that we need to have a certain credit criteria to get that one thing at the time,
Right,
to
right, right,
get the
right.
house, to get the car. But we
Exactly.
need good credit to get, you know, employment these days.
That's true. That's true. People will not hire you now if your credit is bad.
No,
If you
to
bounce
work
a
for a
lot of
bank,
checks,
right? And
if
have
you bounce a
people's
lot of
personal
checks,
information
or retail. I know
or
a young lady who bouncing a lot of checks. She couldn't get a job in retail. Mhm,
absolutely. Absolutely.
mhm,
So that is how I'm able to, you know, get clients, to help them in that arena, because I do establish a level of trust and care, you
mhm.
know, and with understanding about just how it could happen to any of us. And that is just, you know, important to learn how to fix it
Mhm.
and how to keep it that way. And if life happens and you end up back at the bottom, you know, the score is just an algorithm. It is a metric
Mhm.
that you can bring yourself back up to a strong position, and I'll help you do that.
Do you think that the fact that you're an attorney, you're able to come forward and say, "Hi, this happened to me,
Absolutely.
so don't feel bad about where you are." Do you think that's been helpful in your sales pitch? Really
Totally.
be very candid and honest.
Absolutely. That is really most of it. Because like I said, people don't think that people in a certain industry or what they think is a certain stature, right?
Mhm.
That they're not struggling, and that's not the only area. We are really here to be honest and try
Mhm.
to, you know, show people that, you know, you're not in this boat by yourself. But it's really hard to do, and particularly with social media, you know, people portray the best of themselves,
Right,
but
exactly.
behind it there's a struggle that could actually be a lesson for others. But
Exactly.
instead, right,
Gotta keep
it's
the
we
facade
hide
up.
behind that.
we got to keep the facade up.
Absolutely.
I tell people all the time, I kind of got it together with credit because somebody denied me a credit card. I was traumatized. I was like, no, we are going to get this right. I'm never going to have this problem.
Right.
I am not. So I think
That's right.
Now, in your field, I put in the description that you're a financial guru. You were like, no, that's not what I do. But I surround myself with people who are. So that means, I guess, a part of your pivot plan is identifying partners in your effort. What kind of partnerships have you established?
So absolutely financial planners who, again, teach people good habits. How much money do you make? What are the bills that you have? What do you have left, and how are you going to deal with it? I surround myself with those people because I am so far from that. So far from that. Also, with regards to the credit piece, I got into this because I understood from my own difficulties how hard it was to get fair terms, interest rates and payments and things like that after going through a life shift. So I then started speaking to people who were credit experts, credit educators, not the people who promise the overnight change.
Right.
Stay far away from people who say, they're going to sweep your credit and just all of that. It is really, sell you other people's trade lines, things like that. No, absolutely not. But I started talking to people about, hey, how did you, how are you educating people on how to do this? Because I want to learn it and I want to teach it. I had 2 sons. They're now 25 and 21. So when I was coming up, it was, hey, hey, baby. My grandfather used to say, hey, baby, don't run up your credit.
What does that mean? What happens if I do?
Don't run. Right. And at the level that he was, he was a small business owner, cash business at the time, who knew what that meant. So now I'm able I was able to take from these credit educators and not only improve my own, but say to my children, okay, this is what we need to do to establish credit for you. This is how you need to use that credit, not, have your balances high and pay your payments on time. And, what that meant, I was able to impart to my kids the importance of actually doing it right. So I surround myself with people who know who taught me that, and then now that I can impart that, because I'm really passionate about, folks really being educated about credit.
I agree. I completely agree. Especially, if I'm to be candid, our culture, our community, our race, we just didn't come from a history of folks that really understand that stuff. So we're sort of starting at square one at this point. Right. But I think it's very instrumental. And one of the reasons why I thought it was so important to have this show is because I don't think people really understand how your personal credit can impact if you want to be an entrepreneur at some point. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. I might have to bring you back again because
I love to. There's so much more, and we can actually talk more, in detail about the,
I would love to.
Yeah, how people can actually take the steps. Definitely.
We definitely had, in the past we had sort of a 3-part startup conversation. So maybe we could do something with regards to finances, because I think it's so important that, folks really understand wealth building starts with credit, whether we want to own it or not.
That's right. That's
right. Good credit. You can have a great income, but without good credit, that won't help much.
That's right.
So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having
being
me.
so flexible with me. We had some technical difficulties, but we worked it out.
Yes, we did. And I love your show. I follow you.
Thank you.
And I learned so much from all your guests, Stephanie. And so I'm very proud of what you are doing to get these conversations going.
Thank you. Because I tell you, I'm learning myself. It's personal. Thank you again. And you have a great day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, everyone, thank you for joining us again today. We had, as I mentioned, it's a wealth of information, and definitely I will be reaching out to Tracey again to see if we can do that 3 or 2-part series on finances to get you prepared to get into that entrepreneurial space. Join us again next week. We'll have Ivo de Aguiar. I hope I said that right. That's Ivo de Aguiar. He's a chef. He's going to give us all the scoopage of how to be an entrepreneur and chef at the same time. So we thank you so much. And once again, I'd like to thank our partner, our new partner, the H&R Center. Please go buy tickets for the Alvin Ailey Dance Theater performance on February 25th and 26th today. Thank you and have a great day. We'll see you next week.